So is it good news or bad news now that Jake Paul has signed for the PFL? He's become a professional MMA fighter. The news was announced a couple of days ago, and my first reaction is that I'm not surprised. Jake Paul in the past has said how he wanted to become an MMA fighter and has consistently pushed Dana White and the UFC to pay fighters more and to really change the way UFC and MMA is run and held as a sport. Because he is now signed as a professional MMA fighter and even offering Nate Diaz a 2-fight contract, one with boxing and one with MMA. And I think overall this is really positive news, and here's why. Like him or not, Jake Paul is changing the face of MMA as we know it. He has consistently pushed for fighters to be paid more and has always explained his frustrations with the fact that the top fighters rarely get together and fight each other. So you have to at the very least respect Jake for really trying to push the boundaries of UFC and MMA so far as to now actually joining the PFL, and they're now being a genuine rival to the UFC. And if fighters from the PFL are starting to be paid significantly more than the UFC, it's only going to be a matter of time before more mainstream MMA fighters and fighters from the UFC move over to the PFL, which is going to cause Dana White a lot of problems. And I think this is good. The more disruption within the industries, generally speaking, the better, because companies get complacent, and maybe the UFC have been complacent and Dana White himself has been complacent for too long. And it is about time that fighters are paid what they earn and what they should earn, and rightly so. And I understand some of the frustrations towards Jake Paul, the fact that maybe he's not gone through the proper fighter's journey, in the sense that he's had a few fights and then suddenly fought Tyrone Woodley and Anderson Silva, whereas the majority of fighters have to go through so many tough, brutal fights just to even start earning a proper wage as a fighter, if they're lucky. And then if they're further even more lucky, then they can get those title fights, whereas Jake Paul has kind of jumped a lot of hurdles. But what I would say to that is Jake Paul has such a massive platform, and whatever he's discussed about in terms of wanting fighters to earn more and wanting there to be more higher platform for MMA and more attention on the sport of MMA, he's always delivered. And undoubtedly more people are interested in talking about MMA and fighting, and more people want to watch fighting because of people like Jake Paul, KSI and Logan Paul and other content creators that have gone into boxing and MMA. And I still find it crazy because fighters go into this profession to literally fight their way to earn enough for them and their family so they stop fighting and can retire. But you have high profile content creators who earn a significant amount, up to millions and millions of pounds or dollars, going into this profession and becoming professional fighters. So overall, I think this is a really positive move, not just for Jake Paul and his team, but for MMA as a sport, because I think more people will want to watch MMA, there'll be more attention on the sport, fighters will earn more money, and ultimately, having competition within an industry is a good scenario. You want the UFC and the PFL to be two really strong organisations, so they fight out so that we can get the best fights ultimately as consumers. If you've managed to get to the end of this video, I really appreciate your support, and any likes or subscriptions or comments, constructive criticism or just feedback, I would really appreciate. You might be thinking, why the hell are you talking about UFC and fighting and PFL when you're known as Football Will? Obviously, I do watch other sports other than just football. It's just that football is the sport that I know the most about. And going forward on this channel, I don't want to just talk about football. I want to broaden my horizons and talk about other sports. And I don't know that much about UFC and fighting and boxing, to be honest, but I want to learn more. These sports really fascinate me, and I think it's just good to broaden my horizons, and I want to learn more, not just about these sports, but other sports in general. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. And if you could, please like and subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much.